Thomas Massey and I have been working on this for 6 months. We've got the entire House of Representatives to pass it, the Senate to pass it. The President signed it. I don't even think he knew it was my bill. I texted his assistant. I said, "Where's my signing ceremony?" I didn't get the Trump pen. But the point is that this is not about politics. At least 1,200 young girls from working class families were raped and abused in America. Not over one president, over decades, over successive administrations. In 1996, one of them complained to the FBI about Jeffrey Epstein, and the FBI did nothing because the people who were raping these young girls were powerful, rich, financiers, politicians, and they called this person who actually complained to the FBI a liar for 30 years, until some of the files have been released showing that she actually did complain and that the FBI did nothing. We cannot have two tiers of justice in America. I am tired of this idea of elite impunity, that you can be so powerful, rich, that you can rape young girls on an island and get away with it, or that you could be bankers that caused the Great Recession and get away with it, or that you can commit torture in Iraq and get away with it. We have to have justice for everyone in this country, the same set of rules for everyone, a common set of values. So that is what the broader issue of Epstein is about, and most importantly, on a personal level, this is the time that many survivors, not just of Epstein, but survivors across the country, are feeling seen and heard. I can't tell you how many people stop me at an airport or stop me at a train station and they say, "Congressman, I've seen you and Thomas Massey working on Epstein." And then they share in that 1 or 2 minute interaction, "I want to tell you how when I was 8 or 10 or 12, I was abused, I was assaulted, and how that trauma still stays with me." We have to have a reckoning in this country about sexual assault, about abuse that is taking place, not just by rich and powerful people, but across. When we see what actually has happened, I believe it will be a moral reckoning for this nation. So I'm committed, along with Thomas Massey, to fighting to make sure that we actually have accountability, that all the files are released, and that people are held accountable for what they did. It also shows, by the way, that you don't have to think about politics just through party. I worked with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I worked with Lauren Boebert. I worked with Nancy Mace. They were very courageous in this. They were being threatened by the president, but they met the survivors. And they said, "No, we're not going to get off the discharge petition." When you cross the aisle, when you are willing to look at causes beyond party, but from a perspective of morality, from a perspective of what's right for the country, you can build a unique coalition that can help get justice and remind us of what we share in common. And a lot of my work, even though I'm a proud progressive Democrat, a lot of my work has been, how do we build coalitions across the country to try to bring a common sense values back to the United States. I want to open it up for a conversation, but let me tell you just a little bit about my story and my economic vision, and then open it up for your ideas and thoughts. I was born in Philadelphia in our bicentenary in 1976. My wife always says you had nothing to do with it, but it is a convenient fact for a politician to be born in Philadelphia in our bicentenary year. My grandfather spent 4 years in jail as part of Gandhi's independence movement in India, both in the 1930s and 1940s, fighting for human rights and against British colonialism. That movement inspired Dr. King and the civil rights movement that leads to the Immigration Reform Act that allowed my parents to come here. My father went to the University of Michigan, was a chemical engineer. My mom was a substitute school teacher. I grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and I had so many people who believed in me. Indian American, of Hindu faith, 99% white community. But I had Little League coaches who said, this guy plays. I was terrible. They used to say, watch the bun, every time I used to come up with a play. But I played. I had teachers who said you can do anything in this country. I had remember I wrote an op-ed at 14 at the Bucks County Courier-Times. I said, read this 14-year-old's lips, George. It was about the first Gulf War. I thought the President of the United States was going to read my op-ed. Now I write in the New York Times, the President still doesn't read it. But the point is that I believe in this country's democracy. And at the age of 40, they elected the son of immigrants to represent Silicon Valley, arguably the wealthiest, most innovative district in the history of the world. $18 trillion in my district. 1/3 of the national wealth of this country is in my district. Apple, Google, NVIDIA, Tesla, Broadcom. But I gotta tell you something. Our nation is not gonna survive with islands of prosperity and seas of despair. A nation can't be half prosperous and half in decline. 70% of Americans no longer believe in the American dream. They no longer believe in what this country gave me, the chance to work hard, study hard, and make it. By the way, immigrants tend to be the most patriotic, and my parents used to say, bro, you won the lottery. You were born in America. Go work hard. Go learn everything about the history of this country. Go make good grades. When I got 90% on my exams, they said, where was the other 10%? My mom used to be on the kitchen table with vocabulary cards of every English word because she said, to master America, master the English language. That was the spirit. And I got a good public education. And I had to take out too many loans to go to higher education. But I didn't have to worry about going to a doctor. I didn't have to worry about being in a safe community. If they could do that for a son of immigrants, why can't they do that for every kid in America? Why is it that we're producing more wealth than ever in the history of humanity in my district, yet people don't have fundamental health care and child care and education in this country? I have no problem with producing wealth. I love people producing wealth. That's wonderful. But every American needs a stake in the prosperity. It can't just be in the hands of the few. If you're going to produce billions of dollars, to whom much is given, at least a little is expected. Make sure that you're paying so that we can have health care for everyone, in my view, Medicare for all. Make sure that we have trade schools in America and free public education. Make sure that we have $10 a day child care and investment in our communities. I've never understood people who are against higher taxes on billionaires. I said, if you have more billionaires in your district, then let's talk. But the guy with all the billionaires is saying you can tax them a bit more so everyone can have health care and child care and education in this country. That's not giving them a handout. That's giving them a pathway to economic independence and success in the United States of America. And I want an America where the economic wealth generation isn't just going to be in a few places. It's got to be across this country. We need a Marshall Plan, not for Europe. We need a Marshall Plan for America. Now, Elko has done well with the gold and gold mines, but we still need a modern Marshall Economic Development Plan for rural communities that may not be as blessed, for factory towns that were hollowed out, and even for people in Elko, where young people may want a diversity of choices in what they want to do with their future. One of these young men, stand up, is a nurse. He's in my district, Cupertino. He moved here. Brandon. Let me tell you what a Marshall Plan looks like for America. A Marshall Plan for America means that we need to be investing in the new factories across this country, the new industries. It's not going to be the old factories, but we could have hydrogen steel. We could have new robotics. We could have new renewable energy. We could have new batteries. We need to figure out how are we going to do that. You can't do it just with tariffs. You got to build. You got to have the investment to build a new factory. You got to have the investment in the workforce. We should have 1,000 new trade schools here in America. You know, Ray was telling me he's a great firefighter. He's going to be a great public servant. But he was telling me that he had a welding background, so he knew he had a good paying job. Why can't we make sure that more people, especially in the world of AI, have a skill, a trade skill, that they can have a good paying job for? We need to have a care economy. Like Brandon is a nurse. We need people in preschool and childcare. We need folks taking care of the disability. We need home care workers. We can take care of the elderly. We can have a flourishing care economy. We need technology jobs. The only people who should have access to technology shouldn't be in Silicon Valley. I want young kids in Elko thinking they could understand AI. They could help build a new business here. They could help understand what those tools are to do different apps and technology jobs here in Elko and other communities. And we need capital for small business across this country. I call this a vision of new economic patriotism, a sense that we need a new national purpose. And let me end with that and open it up for a conversation. I don't care what party you are, I don't care whether you voted for the president, didn't vote for the president. This country is exhausted. We're divided. And many people are embarrassed. We're not looking for vengeance. We're tired of the tit for tat. We're tired of being pit against each other. We need a new national purpose in this country. We need a new sense of core national mission. I believe that core national mission can be working together to make sure that every family in every town in America has economic dignity and independence in the 21st century. A vision to renew our nation, to renew the hollowed out towns in the Midwest, to build up the rural communities so they can thrive in a modern economy, to link the coasts in California to the heartland, to the south, and to say that this common economic vision will allow America to lead in the 21st century. That was the dream, not just of our founders, that was the dream of Frederick Douglass. Enslaved for 20 years. In 1869, Frederick Douglass, after being enslaved, chooses to speak out not to defend African Americans, but to defend Chinese Americans, to defend the right for Chinese immigration. And he says, in the free era of America, the best traditions will thrive, and those that aren't so great will fall by the wayside, and we will become a composite nation, a nation of all nations. I believe that is the destiny of 21st century America, to be a thriving multi-ethnic democracy that links rural and urban communities, that links our communities across the nation in a new economic purpose. And that's what I'm trying to work on. And that's why I'm trying to go to communities across this country to see how that can fit in to the broader framework. So thank you for having me, and I'd love to open it up to questions and